Welcome back on the AM show, and we continue with our big stories. Now, we're talking about the anti-gay bill. It stoked quite a conversation on different ends of our political spectrum and in our social lives as well. Now, guess what? Yesterday was crucial because there had been 3 attempts by the Clerk of Parliament to serve the presidency in respect of this bill. All 3 attempts rebuffed. We heard from the presidency in that statement. But yesterday, the minority had a lot to say. The majority side had some rebuttals, among others. We'll get into the nitty-gritty, the facts of the matter with our parliamentary correspondent, Kweku Asante. He joins me in the studio.
Benjamin, it's good to see you, V-Mate.
Sharp. Good to be here. Lovely shirt, by the way.
Thanks.
Your work has not been very easy in Parliament lately because of the back and forth. Tell me about it.
So much going on. And in fact, yesterday was quite chaotic because, of course, Parliament had planned that yesterday they were going to adjourn for Christmas, Easter break, I should say. But certain events had come in and had really angered the Speaker of Parliament. The Speaker of Parliament had been away for about a week. He had been in the US on some official visits. But yesterday, he decided to come in and ask MPs to hold on every business until he was in the chair. So at about 2 p.m., the business of the House was suspended, waiting for the Speaker of Parliament. At about 6 p.m., he took his chair, and he came in with a very fiery response to the president's, the letter that emanated from the presidency, rejecting and ordering the Clerk to Parliament to cease and desist from making any attempt whatsoever to serve the president with bills that have been passed by the House. And this time around, the controversial anti-LGBTQ bill. The clerk, like you said, have tried 3 times, and both on all occasions, the presidency have rejected his attempt to serve the president with a bill so that the president will decide to either sign or not sign. The reasons the presidency have given is that there are currently actions pending before the Supreme Court. These actions also have interlocutory applications for injunctions, and for which reason they believe these cases must be disposed of first before the president will be in the position to deal.
Of course, when we talk of those cases, it is in respect of 2 people, Dr. Amanda Odoi and Richard Delaskai.
Yes.
To clarify.
Yes. So these persons are before the court over the controversial anti-LGBTQ bill that was passed by the House, and they say that part of it is unconstitutional. They want the Supreme Court to pronounce on that. So the presidency said, as by virtue of these actions, I'm unable to work on the bill as has been passed by the House. The Speaker of Parliament comes in and, in a lengthy address, almost an hour,
he was livid.
Very livid, shreds apart the presidency's letter, says that the letter that came in from Nana Bedi-Etu Asante, the executive secretary, was actually contemptuous of Parliament. It has no basis in law, and that the president is trying to stultify, as it were, Parliament from being able to do its work. As far as it's concerned, the presidency has no such power to do what they're reporting to do. But be that as it may, he says the presidency have laid what he called a principle that will not be followed. And that anytime injunction applications are filed against government business, Parliament is not going to consider any of those business. As soon as the applications in court, they are not going to do that. And so...
Which is kind of like quid pro quo.
Tit for tat.
In other words, once there's an injunction, we will not touch it.
Exactly.
And that could be chaotic.
And the chaos has already started. There are 22 nominees of President Akufo-Addo currently before Parliament who have gone before the appointment committee. And we expected that yesterday, the question would have been put on them, a vote would have been taken, and they would have been approved as ministers for the president to swear them in maybe today or tomorrow. The president says Roxy Nelson Efemekpo has gone to court over these nominees and has filed for an interlocutory injunction. Because of that, he's unable to get the House to deal with that. So that means these 22 ministerial nominees will have to wait until at least May, when Parliament returns from its Easter break, before they can get any action.
That will be like you
that is catastrophic.
You used the word stultify at the start of this. It would mean that the work of these ministries will come to some halt.
Yes, in fact, if you look at...
They are not substantive.
If you look at the Information Ministry now, there is no substantive minister. There are no substantive deputy ministers. Because when Kojo Nkrumah was moved to the Works and Housing Ministry, his deputy, Fatima Abubakar, was relieved of the position of deputy and promoted to become minister. Right? And that means there's no deputy, there's no minister. And then there's a deputy ministerial nominee in the person of Sylvester Tete. There's also Fatima Abubakar herself to become the substantive minister. And all these persons have not now been approved. Of course, we understand that the president has appointed some substantive ministers to act in this state. But without substantive ministers at these ministries pushing through government business in those places are going to suffer. So, like you said, quid pro quo, the Speaker of Parliament is saying that if you are not going to work on the anti-LGBTQ bill because you claim there's been an injunction application, I'm also not going to do any government business in the House. And in the future, when there is any injunction application, I'm not going to work on that. And there were key government, apart from these, there were loans, 150 million cedis that government is hoping is going to, as it were, solidify the Ghana cedi, which is on a free fall decline now. There's also tax waiver requests that are currently before the House. Ordinarily, when the House is expected to adjourn, it's the government side that will lead business. Right. They will ensure that every business is done. And then when there's no business to be done, they will give the indication to the Speaker, then he will adjourn the House. As soon as the Speaker finished his address, he adjourned the House. He banged the gavel, and the majority leader was shocked.
And we'll get into the dynamics of that and what it technically means, because this is a bigger conversation than some may see it. It basically means that government business from the executive to the legislative floor could come to a grinding halt. That means that literally government will be tied down. But what is the thinking of the majority side? Yesterday we heard from the Efutu MP, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, on whether, the cause would be to impeach Mr. President for overreaching, so to speak. Let's bring in now Eko Asifua. He's Member of Parliament for Otafo. Eko, good morning.
Morning, my brother.
You sound rather tired. Is it on the back of your parliamentary work?
Absolutely.
Hello?
Absolutely.
Oh, I see. A sleepless night?
Come again?
Sleepless night?
Yes. I had to engage a number of media houses yesterday in the evening.
Okay, I don't know why I'm struggling to hear you, but I don't know whether it's the sound from the studio or from your end, but I'll just encourage you to speak up a bit.
Yeah, so some media houses felt that today is going to be very busy, so we should engage them so that they could record that and all that. So I started around 3 a.m. and I woke up just about 30 minutes ago.
I see. Well, thank you for granting us audience all the same. What is your take on this crucial matter that everyone is talking about?
Well, let me say a very good morning to you and to your cherished viewers. This is clear. You do me, I do you. Yesterday, because I was an interested party, I sat in Parliament and listened to the Speaker of Parliament clearly and attentively.
Okay, Mr. Asifua, we're going to have to remedy this. I can't hear you. I don't know whether the phone is close to you but we're really struggling to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
It's somewhat better. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead. It's better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
So, as I said yesterday, because I was an interested party, I listened to the Speaker of Parliament attentively. You could see a visibly angered Speaker of Parliament. Maybe because of the anger, it made him make very fundamental mistakes as far as the rules of Parliament is concerned.
What are those fundamental mistakes?
One, the convention has always been that when Parliament is being adjourned, synod, leadership will have to be given an opportunity, or Speaker will have to defer to leadership for them to give their closing remarks. Yesterday, it was totally absent. Uh, it seems we were not in a democracy, and all of us were really shocked to the marrow. I mean, no word from anybody. No word from anybody. So it was very surprising that it happened that way. That is number one. Number two, the basic principle in law that you cannot approbate and reprobate. At one breath, the Speaker of Parliament didn't agree with what Mr. President did. In another breath, he supported it by basing on the agreement, or if you like, the decision that His Excellency the President took to also make the same decision, put differently. His Excellency the President's letter to Parliament, as per the Speaker of Parliament, was unlawful. Now, the Speaker also takes another decision based on the same principle that was used by His Excellency the President and make a decision. Today, because of that decision, there are a number of ministries that will not have any political head for those ministries to run.
Do you then accept, because of the passage of time, do you then accept that, are you then suggesting or accepting that indeed the communication from the presidency to Parliament was technically wrong, unlawful?
Well, I don't think so. I think that for all of us in Parliament, especially on the majority side, a bit of an issue that was raised that seemed to be running the minds of most of the MPs was to the effect that the wording probably could have been relooked. But as to the principle, there was nothing, absolutely nothing.
That same principle wasn't applied when the e-levy was on the table. There were two challenges from the minority against the e-levy and from an individual in respect of Oliver Barker Vomao, in respect of the GRA being injuncted not to continue with accessing that cash or implementing it. Mr. President went on to sign it. Different strokes for different folks?
I'm very much aware. You are also aware of Article 88 of the 1992 Constitution, which gives the Attorney General the authority or the mandate to be the principal or chief advisor to the President.
The President doesn't have to take the Attorney General's advice. We've seen that time without number.
Come again?
The President is not obliged to take the Attorney General's advice. We've seen that time without number.
I'm saying that the Attorney General is the chief advisor to the President. As far as I'm aware, I did not see any advice from the AG's office at the time that e-levy was sent to court, number one. Number two, it is also within the ambit of the lawyers in the case to move on application in court to cite someone for contempt of Parliament if that person is believed to do something that goes against the dictates of the law. If the lawyers fail to do that, it is very difficult for me to answer for them. And also, the rules of court also allows for the court itself to cite someone for contempt of Parliament, so much without any application whatsoever emanating from any lawyer. And so if a court also did not see it relevant to cite the President for contempt, and remember Article 2 of the Constitution, when someone is being cited for contempt of Parliament, especially in the person of the President, it is high crime, which is tantamount to his removal. If all these processes were not triggered, I am very surprised that you would want me to answer for that. That doesn't lie in my mouth to do that. People who feel entitled, or the persons who were interested parties at the time, should have triggered all these processes if none of them was triggered.
I am just interested in the different applications of the law based on where, because mind you, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, your majority leader, had signaled in a certain direction. The Attorney General had signaled in a certain direction. Even before that, other members of Parliament had signaled powers that be within your party had signaled in a certain direction. There's even talk about the fact that Oseiche Mensah Bonsu was for this, and maybe some things happened because he was for that. Then we have the president adopting this position. So are you then making the point that the presidency has done everything right, but the speaker has done everything wrong? I just want clarity on that.
I haven't said any of that. All that I'm telling you is that the application of the law, as per His Excellency's green letter, the principle in there for me as a lawyer, there's nothing wrong about that.
Right.
I've had the occasion to cite cases of Ayete versus Agbofu number 2, where the Supreme Court had the occasion to espouse that an attempt, or if you like, any application that is sent in court should be seen as synonymous with an injunction.
Right.
We also have other cases from the High Court, Republic versus Mofat, Espati Alote, and all of that. So, I mean, that principle for me is not wrong. But
if that principle is watertight, by that same principle, then you should also concur with the Speaker when he says that if anything comes from the executive to the legislative arm of government and there is some sort of injunction or court process on it, you will not look at it. It makes sense, doesn't it?
My brother, in the instant case, have you seen the writ that Dafiama sent to the Supreme Court? When you look at the writ very well, check point 9. The injunction that Dafiama was seeking for is not in relation to those new ministers like myself who was appointed.
No, but I'm not referring to that specific. I am saying that generally what the Speaker has said, since you're doing this, if you bring anything before Parliament and there is an injunction or any form of process in court, we're not going to take a look at it. I'm looking at the general principle. Quid pro quo. Does it not apply?
Hold on, respectfully. The Speaker's ruling yesterday is what we should talk about. The Speaker's ruling and the basis for his ruling was Dafia Mapo's writ in the Supreme Court. And he based on Dafia Mapo's writ to rule that because of that, he cannot take the ministerial nominees. And I am suggesting to you that point 9 of the declarations or the release that was sought by Dafia Mapo, that injunction application that he sought was in relation to ministers whose appointment was revoked and was reshuffled or reassigned to other places. It is not about ministers, or if you like, deputy minister designate like us. Please, just read the point 9. That is where I have a problem. And that's why I'm saying that in the process of the anger that was demonstrated by Mr. Speaker, he made very fundamental mistakes. That I will not even do. And that is the point I was trying to make.
All right. We do not have time for an expansive conversation on this because I would have wanted to take you on some parts of the law, the same law that you keep referencing. But we're going to have to draw the curtains on it here. Eko, we are grateful for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right. That is Eko Esifua. He is Member of Parliament for Old Trafford. This conversation will continue, and likely from tomorrow, we'll still have some conversations on this, including in my blunt thoughts. But stay with us. There's a lot more coming your way on the AM show.